The sky above the dead planet was always gray. The sun barely reached the ground, hidden behind thick ash clouds. The air was thin, cold, and dry. There were no animals, no wind, no sound except one, a voice, weak, tired, crying, "Please, is anyone out there?" Inside the crushed wreckage of a small alien ship buried under metal beams and broken glass, a woman lay half-conscious. Her skin, once glowing blue, was now pale and cracked. Her eyes were dry. Her lips trembled as she whispered into the shattered radio. She had been calling for help for 13 days. Every day, she repeated the message. Every night, she cried herself to sleep, thinking it would be her last. Her legs were pinned under. The debris, her suit's oxygen tank, was empty 2 days ago. She survived by sipping the last drops of water from a broken coolant pipe. Her name was Vila, but now even she had started to forget that name. Her people had promised they'd come back. They had said, "Just hold on, reinforcements are coming." But no one came, not even the scavengers, not even the enemies who shot them. Down she was truly alone. Vela stared at the flickering control screen near her head. The battery was almost gone. Soon the signal would die completely, and with it, the last chance anyone would ever find her. Her hand reached for the transmitter again. "Please, even if you're human, I don't care anymore. Just anyone. Help me." In deep space, many light-years away, a small human cargo ship floated quietly. Its pilot, Ethan Carter, sat back in his chair, half asleep. The ship was old. The screens flickered sometimes. The engines hummed like an old beast breathing in its sleep. He wasn't military. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who delivered supplies across forgotten systems. "Another boring route," he mumbled, rubbing his eyes. Then a light blinked on the corner of his console. A signal, weak, old frequency. Not human. Carter leaned forward. He tapped the screen. A crackling voice came through the static. "Even if you're human, help me." He sat up straight. "What the hell?" the signal repeated. "I don't want to die here." Carter stared at the map. The signal came from a banned sector on Old Battlefield. No one went there anymore. The war was over years ago. Everyone who crashed there stayed there. His co-pilot AI, a dry voice called Nora, spoke up. "Signal source is unreliable. Not recommended to investigate." Carter frowned. That's a person. That's someone still alive. Possibility of survival after 13 days, less than 2.8%, still better than zero. Without another word, Carter turned the ship. The engines roared as he changed course. Nora sighed. "You're going to regret this." Back on the planet, Vela coughed. Blood touched her lips. She didn't feel her legs anymore. The cold had moved into her bones. Her vision blurred. The screen beside her beeped slowly, then died. The battery was gone. The signal was gone. Her last hope was gone. A tear slid down her dry cheek. She closed her eyes. Then a sound, a low hum. A different kind of sound, not from the wreck. From above, a ship. She didn't believe it at first. She opened her eyes again. Dust shook loose from the ceiling. Light poured through a crack. Outside, a human cargo ship was landing. Carter stepped out, pulling his coat tight. The air was thin. His breath came fast. The crash site was a graveyard, twisted metal, broken weapons, and blackened ground. But the signal had led him here. Nora scanned for life. One source. Faint beneath that broken wing structure. He ran. Metal groaned. Under his boots, sparks flew as he cut through wires with his plasma knife. Then he heard it. A soft, weak cough. He dropped to his knees and pushed aside a beam. And there she was. Eyes barely open. face covered in ash and blood. Still breathing, her lips moved. "You're human?" he smiled. "Yeah, lucky for you." Ethan Carter gently brushed away the ash from her face. The alien woman's skin was ice-cold and dry like cracked stone. Her breathing was shallow, and her chest barely moved. She had no strength left to sit up. Her white eyes blinked once, trying to focus on the strange figure kneeling above her. He wasn't like the others. He didn't look at her like she was an enemy, or like she was a thing. "I got you," he said softly, pulling a small oxygen mask from his belt and placing it over her mouth. She gasped his white as clean air rushed into her lungs. She coughed hard, pain flashing across her face. But it was the first real breath she'd taken in days. "Don't try to talk," Carter said. "You're safe now." She didn't believe him, not yet. Her kind had learned that humans weren't always safe. Not during the war, not when her people had left her behind. Still, something in his voice felt different. Warmer. Not angry. Not cold. Just tired. But honest. Carter activated his wrist scanner and ran it over her body. The results were not good. Internal bleeding, broken ribs, crushed legs, dehydration, and yet she was still alive. "How the hell are you still breathing?" he whispered. He turned on his radio. "Nora, prep the med bed. I'm bringing someone in." "Understood." "Species unknown. Biohazard protocol initiated. Just keep her alive." He reached under her arms and slowly lifted her from the debris. She winced in pain, but she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just leaned into him, too weak to resist. Carter carried her through the ruins. The ground shifted beneath them, and the wind howled softly across the crater. The ship's engines waited ahead, humming like a heartbeat in the silence. As the ship door opened, warm air surrounded them. For the first time in 13 days. Vila felt heat on her skin. Inside the medbay, Carter gently placed her on the bed. Robotic arms moved above her, scanning and healing. A soft light covered her chest, closing open wounds. Tubes delivered fluid into her system. Her cracked lips began to regain color. Still, she stared at him with suspicion. He noticed. He didn't blame her. Carter sat nearby, wiping his hands with a towel, his eyes watching her closely. "You got a name?" he asked. No answer. He leaned back. "Figures, I guess I'll call you Crashy until you talk." The AI Nora interrupted. "Vitals stabilizing. Recovery possible, though lower limbs are severely damaged." Carter frowned. "She'll need time. She may never walk again." He looked at the girl. Even with dirt covering her face, there was something hauntingly beautiful in her presence. Not in a romantic way, but in a tragic, fragile way. Someone who had been broken by everyone she ever trusted. Hours passed. The ship drifted quietly in orbit above the ruined world. Carter sat in the cockpit, drinking cold coffee and staring at the stars. "Why were you even there?" he muttered. "A scout ship, a trap, or were you just in the wrong place?" He didn't know. He only knew one thing. He was the only one who had responded. He didn't even understand why he turned around. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe, deep down, he was just tired of watching people suffer while others looked away. In the medbay, Vela slowly opened her eyes. The pain was softer now. Her body didn't scream anymore. The ceiling above her was white and clean, not smoke-filled. She remembered hands pulling her up, not rough hands. Not cold metal, human hands. She turned her head slightly and saw a folded blanket on a chair. A steaming cup beside it. Someone had left it for her. Someone cared enough. Her fingers trembled as she reached out to it. Later, Carter returned. She was awake. He paused by the doorway. "You're lucky I was bored," he joked gently. "Or you'd still be part of that broken ship." She watched him, still silent, but her hand moved, slightly tapping her chest. She winced in pain, but whispered, "V Vela." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Vela, huh? That's better than Crashy." Her lips twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. Vela had always heard stories about humans. During the war, her people spoke of them as monster-strong, clever, and heartless. Soldiers said that if a human found you wounded, they'd finish the job without blinking. That's why she never called for one until now. Now she was lying in a warm medbed, on a human ship, breathing human air. And being watched by a man who hadn't hurt her. It didn't make sense. Was this real? Or was her broken mind dreaming again? She blinked at the soft light above her. The pain was still there, but distant. Her body was healing slowly, thanks to the machines and fluids the human gave her. Her fingers twitched. Her thoughts were coming back. Still, she said nothing. Her voice was afraid to believe it. Ethan Carter stood nearby, arms crossed, watching her. He had cleaned the ash from her face. Her skin, once dull and cracked, now had a soft, silver-blue glow. He had seen many aliens, but never one with such sad eyes. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a spy. She looked like someone who had just wanted to survive. He leaned forward. "You thought I wasn't real, didn't you?" Her eyes moved toward him slowly. "I get it," he said. "If I were you, I'd think the same." He grabbed a small box and opened it. Inside was a nutrient bar. He unwrapped it and broke off a small piece. "You hungry?" She stared at the food, then at him. "Poison," she whispered. Her voice was barely more than air. He didn't flinch. "If I wanted to poison you, I'd let you die in the dirt." Her eyes dropped. She hated that he was right. He offered the piece again. "Try it." She reached out slowly and took the small bite. It was dry, sweet, strange, but it didn't kill her. Later, Carter sat near the window, staring at the stars. Vela lay still but awake. Her thoughts were spinning. He had given her food, a blanket, a medbed, and now silence. Not interrogation, not violence, just space to breathe. "Why?" she asked softly. He turned his head. "Why? Why? Help me." Carter sighed. "Because no one else did." "That's not a reason." He shrugged. "It's good enough for me." She studied his face. There were lines under his eyes. He looked tired, not just from travel, but from something deeper, something old. Like a man who had stopped expecting much from the galaxy, just like her. "Your people." "They don't like mine," she said. "Not really," Carter replied. "But I don't care." "Why?" "Because I don't care what they say anymore. The war's over, and I'm not a soldier." She looked down at her legs, still wrapped in soft medical foam. "They left me." "Who?" "My crew." Carter stayed silent. "They were supposed to protect me. They said they'd come back." She clenched her fists weakly. "They didn't." Carter took a deep breath. He knew what betrayal felt like. Not exactly like this, but close. He'd once trusted his own captain during a rescue mission. That captain left him behind, too. Carter made it out, but not the others. "I get it," he said quietly. "No, you don't." He stood and walked toward her. "Maybe not your way. But I've been left too." She looked up at him. For a moment, something passed between them. Not friendship, not trust, but understanding. The AI, Nora, interrupted with a cold tone. "Approaching a restricted zone. Should I redirect?" Carter shook his head. "No, keep course." "I want to find out why she was abandoned." Vela blinked. "You're not taking me home." Carter looked back. "You still have one?" She didn't answer. Exactly what he thought. "You're not a soldier," he said, more to himself than her. "So why were you in a warship?" Vela hesitated. Then slowly replied, "I was a translator, a passenger. My father was an officer." "Ah, and someone wanted to get rid of both of you." She nodded once. He exhaled. "Well, that makes things interesting." Later, Carter brought her water and helped her sit up. She was weak, but no longer fading. Her voice had returned, and her hands were less shaky. She still didn't smile, but she didn't look afraid anymore either. "You'll walk again," Carter told her, "but it'll take time. I thought I was going to die. I thought I'd die of boredom today," he grinned. "Guess we're both lucky." She looked at him, still not smiling, but this time, her eyes didn't look empty. They looked alive. Carter stood outside the wreckage again. The smoke had long faded, but the air still smelled like burnt metal and old blood. His boots crunched softly on shattered glass and scorched sand. Overhead, the sky remained heavy and gray, like the planet itself had given up breathing. Vela was healing back on the ship, but she needed answers. So did he. She had barely told him anything, only that her crew left her, and she wasn't a soldier, a translator, a passenger. Her father, an officer, had died in the crash, but Carter knew there had to be more. People didn't just abandon each other in space, not unless there was a secret involved, and secrets were always buried deep. So Carter came back to dig. He moved slowly, scanning the wreckage section by section. The ship had broken into 3 parts: cockpit, midsection, and cargo hold. Most of the bodies had already decayed or been vaporized, but what remained told him one thing: someone had tampered with the escape pods. They were sealed from the outside, he whispered, brushing away blackened residue on a hatch. Someone locked them in. He walked deeper into the midsection. The walls were scorched, claw marks everywhere. A sign of panic, desperation. Carter's scanner blinked. Hidden, under a fallen beam, was a data chip. He pulled it out and slipped it into his pocket. Then he kept searching in the cargo bay. He found something unexpected. A small metal box, half melted from fire. Inside it was a folded cloth. He carefully opened it. A child's drawing drawn in shaky, colorful lines. 2 figures stood in front of a spaceship, holding hands. One tall, one small. Below it, in alien script, were the words, "Me and Papa, home soon." Carter swallowed hard. He didn't need a translator for that. Back on the ship, Vela sat up slowly. The pain was dull now, like a whisper. Her legs were still numb, but the rest of her body was stronger. The medbay lights blinked green. She looked around, alone, but a small folded towel rested beside her. Warm, clean. Left by Carter. Why was he doing this? Why was a human being kind? She wasn't sure what scared her more: being left to die, or being saved by someone who didn't want anything in return. The ship's door opened, and Carter stepped in, covered in dust and metal grease. He looked tired, but something in his eyes was sharper, like he had found something. Vela stared at him. "You went back," she said. He nodded and sat down. Then he pulled something from his pocket and handed it to her. The drawing. Vela froze. Her hands trembled as she took it. Her fingers gently traced the lines. "You kept this?" she whispered. "I found it near the wreck." "Yours. My brother drew it," she said softly. "Before the war, he was 6. And your father?" She nodded. "He died in the crash, trying to save the bridge crew." Carter leaned back. "Someone sealed the escape pods," he said. From outside, Vela's face darkened. "I know." "You knew?" She closed her eyes. "I saw it before I passed out." "One of the officers, Commander Razzie, ordered it," he said. "No witnesses. Why?" "My father found something." something they were hiding. He refused to stay. Quiet, and they silenced him. Vela looked at Carter. Her voice broke. They left me to die, so I wouldn't talk either. Silence filled the medbay. Only the hum of the ship remained. Carter stood. Rest, I need to check this data. Chip. What chip? He held it up, found it in the wreck. Might be the proof you need. Proof for what? He paused. To tell the galaxy what they did to you. Later, Carter sat alone in the cockpit. The stars moved slowly outside the window. He inserted the chip into the console. A recording began. Voices, a secret meeting. The commander talking about destroying evidence. About silencing the officer Vela's father. About leaving her behind. It was all there. Carter exhaled. I knew it. He muttered. He stared at the stars again, then glanced back toward the medbay. I'm not letting them bury you, Vela, he whispered. Not this time. Vela stared at the drawing in her hands. She had no home now, no family. But maybe, just maybe, this one human, this strange, tired, stubborn man was the first real ally she ever had. Ethan Carter stared at the playback screen again. The voices on the data chip were clear now to clear. The translator's daughter. She doesn't matter. We dump the ship, jam the signal, and say nothing. Her father got too close. If she survives, finish her. Carter's jaw tightened. He had seen greed. He had seen cold orders. But this wasn't just heartless. This was a planned betrayal. And they weren't ashamed. They wanted her gone, and she'd been lying there for 13 days. Forgotten like a piece of garbage, Totter downloaded a copy of the file and sent it through a secured relay to Earth's neutrality hub. Not to the military, not to the officials, but to the public archive where the truth couldn't be buried. Back in the medbay, Vela slowly swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her muscles burned, her bones ached, but she forced herself to move. She couldn't stay helpless forever. Carter walked in and saw her struggling. You're pushing it, he said calmly. I have to. He offered his hand. This time, she took it. With effort, she stood, shaky, unsteady, but standing. Impressive, he said with a small smile. A week ago, you couldn't even lift your head. She smirked faintly. You humans heal fast. Not as fast as you aliens come back from the dead. Carter guided her to the ship's lounge. A small space with a table, 2 chairs, and a glowing window that showed the stars outside. He handed her a warm drink. I've sent the recording to Earth, he told her. Her eyes widened. Why? So the galaxy knows what they did. They'll come for me, she whispered. I know. You shouldn't be involved. I am involved. She looked away. They'll kill you too. Carter leaned forward. Let them try. The ship's alarm beeped softly. Nora's voice followed. Long-range scanners detect an inbound vessel. Identified as Zarthon class. Military grade, ETA, 41 minutes. Carter's face went still. Vela's eyes filled with fear. That's them. Same people who left you. She nodded. Same colors. Same command codes. They're tracking the signal. He stood and walked to the controls. Nora, activate emergency shields. Prep engines, ready. Vela grabbed his arm. You don't have to fight for me. He looked at her, calm but firm. No, I want to. 40 minutes passed fast. Vela suited up in soft armor Carter gave her. It didn't fit perfectly, but it gave her strength. She couldn't run, but she could stand. She could face them just once. Carter loaded his blaster and slipped a knife into his boot. He wasn't a soldier, but he'd fought before. This wasn't about weapons. It was about principle. No one deserved to be thrown away like her. Not on his watch. The enemy ship landed hard like it owned the planet. 2 shuttles broke off and flew toward Carter's location. Armed, silent, fast, inside. Masked soldiers prepared to erase a mistake. Carter stood by the ramp, blaster raised. Vela stood behind him, leaning on the wall for balance. The first shuttle landed. 3 soldiers stepped out. Their rifles gleamed. Carter didn't wait. He fired first. The shot hit the ground near their feet. A warning. The soldiers froze. He shouted, "You're not silencing anyone today. I already uploaded the proof. The galaxy knows." The lead soldier lowered his gun slightly. "She's a threat," he said. "She should have died." "She lived," Carter replied, his voice like stone. "And that's your mistake." Suddenly, a second shuttle landed behind them. More soldiers, too many. Carter turned to Vela. "Back inside." "Now?" She grabbed his hand. "I'm not leaving you. You can't fight. I've already fought. 13 days. Her voice shook, but she stood firm. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Carter and Vela stood side by side. It looked hopeless. Then another ship dropped from the clouds. A human ship broadcasting a message. "We received your public transmission. We're here for the girl." The enemy soldiers paused. They hadn't expected this. They hadn't planned on witnesses. The new human ship landed hard. And soldiers in Earth defense uniforms rushed out. They aimed at the attackers. "Stand down." The human officer shouted, "This area is under human protection now." The alien soldiers hesitated. Then they retreated. One by one, they pulled back, disappearing into their ship, lifting into the sky like cowards. Carter let out a breath. Vela fell to her knees. Shaking, she had lived. Again, the dust had settled. The enemy ship was gone, its retreat leaving silence behind. Human soldiers from the rescue ship began scanning the area, securing the ground around Carter's vessel. Medics rushed in, but Carter waved them off. "She's stable," he said. "But she's been through enough." Vela sat quietly inside the ship, back against the wall, her body wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her armor hung loosely on her frame, and her silver-blue eyes stared out the window as if watching something far away. One of the medics offered her food, but she refused it. Not because she wasn't hungry, but because she was remembering. Carter stepped in and crouched next to her. "They're gone," he said softly. "You're safe." She turned her head toward him slowly. "Safe," she whispered. "What does that even mean now?" He didn't try to answer. Some wounds didn't need words. Vela took a long breath. Then another, and then she spoke. "I wasn't supposed to be there," she said. "That ship, that crew, that planet." Carter stayed quiet, listening. "I was only on board because of my father. He was inspecting military records. He found something, a secret project. Something they were hiding from the Galactic Alliance." "What kind of project?" Carter asked. "I don't know. He didn't tell me. Just said it was dangerous, illegal. And if they found out he knew, he'd be silenced. He was trying to send evidence to the Alliance when they attacked us." "Your own people?" She nodded, bitter. "They disabled the escape systems, then opened fire from the inside. It wasn't a battle, it was an execution. And they left you to die in the wreck," Carter said grimly. "I don't even think they knew I survived," Vela whispered. "I was pinned. They thought everyone was dead." There was silence between them. Only the hum of the ship surrounded them now. Carter finally asked, "Do you still have anything your father gave you? Something he might have hidden?" Vela blinked. Then her hand reached to the chain around her neck. It had been hidden under her collar the whole time. Attached, too, it was a tiny crystal shard, dull and dark, but pulsing faintly. He said, "If anything happened to him, This would protect the truth. Carter leaned closer. "That's a memory shard," he said. "Old tech. Some kind of encrypted data. We'll need a decoder. I've kept it close since the crash. I didn't know what it held." "Well," Carter said, "if your father risked everything for it, then so will we." That night, under the dim lights of the ship, Carter connected the shard to his system through a manual port. The interface buzzed and flashed warnings, but eventually the data began to unfold: fragmented files, audio logs, and a final recorded message. Vila stood beside him, trembling. Then her father's voice filled the ship. "If you're hearing this, I didn't make it. The Zarthon High Command is hiding a weapon, not a bomb, not a fleet. Something worse, a mind control signal that can spread through voice alone. They've tested it on colonies. It works. I've uploaded everything I found into this shard. Please, someone, stop them." Carter leaned back, eyes wide. They were planning to control minds through speech. He muttered. Vela looked sick. He said it would erase free will, turn entire planets into slaves obedient to the command. "This is bigger than you, bigger than us. It's why they killed him. Why they left me behind." Carter clenched his jaw. "They thought it was buried with your body." "But I didn't die," Vila said, her voice stronger now. "You saved me." "No," Carter said. "You stayed alive." In the next room, the human officers watched the decrypted data in silence. The lead officer, a tall woman named Commander Hess, turned to Carter. This could start a war. It could also stop one," he replied. "We'll need to get this to Alliance Command. I'll go with her." Commander Hess narrowed her eyes. "You're not part of any military. You're just a transport pilot." "I'm the reason she's alive," Carter said firmly. "And I'm not letting her out of my sight." Vila glanced at him, eyes wide. No one had ever said that for her before. No one had ever stayed. Later that night, Ella sat in the quiet lounge, holding the crystal shard in her hands. Her body still ached. Her heart was still tired. But for the first time, she didn't feel hollow. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was proof. Proof that truth lived even when others tried to kill it. Carter walked in, tossing her a soft blanket. "You'll need sleep. We leave at dawn." "To where?" He smiled. "To change the galaxy." The stars felt closer now as the ship entered hyperspace. Vila sat quietly beside the window, watching the streaks of light race past her. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Behind her, Ethan Carter stood at the cockpit, speaking with Commander Hess through the comms. "We'll arrive at Alliance Command in 7 hours. Prepare your witness and data files." Carter turned off the comm and walked back into the room. "She's ready to hear your story," he said. Vila's hands tightened around the memory shard hanging from her neck. Vila asked. "Admiral Kesslin. She lost her own son to the Zorthon campaigns. If anyone will believe you, it's her." They landed on Andara Prime, a peaceful green world filled with glass towers and silver skies. The Alliance building stood like a mountain, guarded but calm. This wasn't a war zone. This was a place for truth. Carter stayed close to Vela as officers led them through wide, quiet halls. Everything looked so clean, too clean. Vila's fingers trembled again. "You okay?" Carter whispered. She nodded. "I just never thought I'd live long enough to speak." "You didn't just survive, Vela," he said gently. "You fought every second. They buried you, and you clawed your way out." In the council room, several high-ranking officers sat behind long desks. One woman stood near the center, sharp eyes, silver hair, and a calm but powerful voice. "Admiral Kesslin," Carter whispered. She looked straight at Vela. "You're the girl they left in the wreckage." "I am," Vela said, standing as tall as her weak body allowed. And you've come with something to say. Vela took a breath. Then she pressed the shard onto the table. Play it, she said. The audio filled the chamber. Vela's father's voice echoed off the walls. The secrets of the Zarthon betrayal. The experiments. The mind control signal, all of it, played unedited. No one spoke. No one moved. When it ended, Vela added just one sentence. I was left to die because I knew the truth. Admiral Kesslin finally spoke. We've suspected this for years, but we never had proof. Vela looked down. Now you do? Ku, she said, turning to Carter. You found her? I just heard a voice, Carter said humbly. No. One else answered. So I did. The Admiral nodded slowly. That one choice may have saved millions. The next few days were a blur. Vela was kept under high protection. Her story reached the Alliance Council. News channels began to cover the forgotten wreck survivor. Citizens across planets heard about the girl who survived 13 days. In silence, abandoned but not broken. Carter stayed nearby. He didn't like politics. He didn't like cameras, but he wasn't going to leave her now. One evening, Vela walked into the ship's lounge again. She had a new suit, clean, fitted, official. Her body was stronger. She moved with more confidence now, but her eyes still held sadness. Carter looked up from his seat. You look like someone important. Vela gave a soft smile. They say I'll be speaking at the summit. Good, he nodded. Make them listen. She stepped closer. I would have died. Without you. You would have lived without me too, Carter replied. Just slower. No, she said. You stayed. You came back. You gave me warmth, water, hope. She paused. No one's ever done that before. Carter tried to hide his emotion, but his voice cracked just a little. You deserved more than 13 days of silence. Later that night, Vela stood on the balcony of the Alliance Hall. Below her, thousands of beings, human and alien, gathered to hear her speak. She took the mic. The lights dimmed her voice. Once a whisper in a broken radio, now echoed through the stars. I was left behind, crushed, trapped, forgotten. I cried for help, and no one came. She paused until one human did. The crowd was silent. He didn't know my name. He wasn't a soldier, but he heard me. He turned his ship around, and because of that one choice, I'm standing here now. Tears shimmered in many eyes across the crowd. I am proof that one voice, one act of compassion can change the galaxy. She stepped back, and the galaxy roared with applause. Later, she returned to Carter's ship. He was already preparing to leave. You're heading out? She asked. Back to hauling cargo, he smiled. Someone has to pay for this fuel. She stepped forward. Take me with you. He blinked. What? I don't belong here with officers and reporters, she said. I belong with the one person who didn't look away. Carter didn't argue. He just smiled, nodded, and held. The door opened, the ship lifted off, soaring back into the stars. One human, one alien woman, 2 lives changed forever, and a galaxy that would never forget them.